Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
I actually think it is
Wow,
good
my
morning.
head's huge. It is, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's as good as I can get it.
You want me to slide? I mean, I have control here. I can, I can make my head
I'm
the
gonna
same
slaughter
size as yours. No. There we go. That's a little bit more normal.
Okay. No.
Yeah, it is morning here. It's exactly that. It's the first time I've ever done a morning than in Declan On A Roll. Maybe the last. Who knows?
The last time you do a morning Benedict on a roll,
Yes.
not the
Yeah.
last time.
Yes. Last time I do a morning.
Just,
Yeah.
just over.
I'm going to wake up afternoon. How's it going? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Hey, everyone in chat. Hey, Keatalin. Hey, DM Pulse Nexus. And hello, everyone else who is lurking. Lurking is... No, there's no segue between the show. Well, there is, but it would change the tone.
Yeah. Drastically.
Yeah.
Where do we go from there, Ben? Where do we go from there?
Well, I say today, given that we are 5 days after Valentine's Day, so we're just about a week after Valentine's Day, and we've threatened to do this stream a few times, even if privately. I don't know if we've ever publicly said it, but because Declan DMs Romancing the Dungeon, and I play in Romancing the Dungeon, one of the things that we thought we might talk about is romance and interpersonal relationships at the table between characters and how that might impact, the players' lives and how much it might impact the player characters' lives. So we're talking all things love, romance, flirting, trysts, etc., etc. And our prompt, good thing to ask, is: has your character or any character you've ever played ever been in love? And what was that story like? Because that's what we're going to be chatting about all today.
It's funny because I think 2 weeks ago when we were in the last episode, towards the end, we were talking about, we were doing a little bit of promo stuff at the end, and we ended up talking about Romancing the Dungeon. I think it was Zool was like, oh, when I saw romance in the title, it kind of put me off starting it.
Yeah.
And it's really, I am so bad at naming things.
Sorry, I might adjust there because my camera's kind of pumping like a beating heart, which is not, thematically it's fine, but it keeps trying to focus in on me, so I brought myself closer. That's fine. That's why my head is big again. I don't think it solves the problem.
I can make your camera smaller, but then you'll have a little black.
I think it's the autofocus on my front-facing phone. I'm not in my usual setup, as you can tell. I'm not in my usual country, as you might be able to tell. So hopefully that little autofocus goes away. I'm just keeping an eye on it here. It seems if I stay very still, maybe I'll just do the entire stream chilled out like this. Maybe I'll do the entire stream like this.
Yeah, endearing.
It didn't help. Anyway, it will only hopefully bother me and one or two other people. Now that I pointed it out, it's going to bother everyone. So apologies.
It's okay. There's a cat screaming in the background here. So yeah.
Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that Zool had kind of pointed out that, when you see romance in the title of the show, it was a bit like, oh, that's probably not my cup of tea. And I wonder, one, from a podcasting point of view, was that a bad idea on my part? And then I guess more importantly, I think now maybe I'm wrong, haven't surveyed anybody, but I wonder if that's a lot of people's conception. Like if at the start of the game the DM said, oh, and by the way, romance is on the table for this campaign. Now obviously session zeros, so on and so forth, but like is it an element of tabletop role playing that people don't like doing? Because I know it gets joked about an awful lot. Like I know it's usually the bard, and it's usually the bard rolls to seduce, the evil overlord or the dragon or, the gelatinous cube or whatever it is. So that gets, bandied around a lot. And I don't, like in the in the pop culture sphere, I don't see a lot of other discussion around romance. Well, actually, no, I do. I lie. There's the other one where it's the incredibly sort of like heavy, bordering, not even bordering, it's full on adult role play. Like it's
Right.
it's either the comedic thing or it's done as sort of a, I don't know if kink is the right word, but if it's done because I guess kink might be part of it, or people enjoy the kind of the adult side of it. I don't know.
I think to go back to the naming of the show, because Romance in the Dungeon is as much a adventure, classic fantasy story as it is about the romance between the characters, etc., etc. And in a way, there's it's sort of an undercurrent. I think if you never, yeah, thank you. I have a mustache because I'm away from my wife. She hates them, and I think they're cool. So she doesn't have to kiss my face with the little mustache on top. And my beard will probably be grown back by the time I'm home, which is problem solved. But I don't know if you ever mentioned if it was a story about love. Would that be, if you surveyed audience members, would they go, "What's this about?" Would that be a key theme that would come out in the top? I think it would definitely come out in the top 5. But I would say it's a story about relationships, or it's a story about connections as much as that. However, names are a double-edged sword. Like, you're talking to someone who called their show Homebrew Quest. Talk about like bad SEO, because people are going to just be searching homebrew and we're never going to come up. So I think the name draws in as much people as it maybe sort of keeps away. And especially with the rise of more romance fantasy in sort of general public sphere, the likes of Heated Rivalry, it might actually start to bring people in. And if anything, I would say if you're coming here from a sort of a romantasy genre or the likes of Heated Rivalry, you might be left a little lacking, because it's softcore. It's not a smutty podcast in any kind of sense of the term. And we don't lean in, like, it's very much fade to black, even on kisses. The way we describe them would be like, you would assume they're pecs. They're not like gobbing each other. So,
hey, Festo, would you gob my mate?
Here, give him the old washing machine. So that's potentially a consideration for campaign too, where we want to put the chili level.
So before we get into the topic, I guess this is on topic, but really into the kind of discussion about romance and kind of love. The name came from kind of two things. One, Romancing the Stone, classic romance adventure movie. I keep saying Michael Douglas, but I don't think it was Michael Douglas. Might have been Kirk.
I've never heard of it. Didn't know that was what it was based on.
So it was Michael Douglas, and more importantly, Kathleen Turner, who's a little bit of my Roz inspiration as well. There's a little bit of Kathleen Turner in Roz, and it's a romantic comedy adventure story, and it's 1984, so it belongs back there, but it's a lot of fun, and so that was the first thing. The second thing is it comes from the other definition of romance, or to romance something, which is to kind of tell stories that aren't totally true, or describe events in a way that you romanticize the event, so it makes something sound bigger or better than it actually is. So romancing the dungeon, kind of that idea of just sort of adding a little drama, adding a little flair, adding a little bit of fancy to something.
Oh, I never knew that. That's a TIL for me.
There you go.
T.
I don't know how I would feel, because again, before we went live, we were kind of talking about, what were our first times with romance and whatnot at the table. Well, I mean, I remember mine. I don't know. Do you know? Can you remember?
I can't remember. I'm trying to think because the very first time I played D&D, it's me, it's DM Paul Nexus in chat, it's our friend who's DMing, it's a bunch of guys, and I don't know if we were romancing. I'm sorry, a bunch of guys, a bunch of teenagers, a bunch of 14, 15-year-olds, like a bunch of immature kids, basically. And I don't know if we dipped into that side of the game at all. If we did, it was that sort of jokey teenage lad, sort of like, well, the bartender looks kind of hot. Let's chat her up. And sort of finding that weird safe space as a bunch of nerds. I do remember thinking, I think when I flirted with the DM a little bit as a teenager, I do remember thinking, wow, this is an incredibly safe space to say stupid things amongst my friends who I'm comfortable around, and almost like practice talking to a girl. It's like I was that level of nerd. And it's funny because a lot of people, like, I was a drama kid. I was happy to get up on stage. I was happy to chat. I remember once a childhood friend of mine, I must have been 7 years old, but I wore an entirely blueberry blue tracksuit into school. And the moment I stepped into the classroom, I realized exactly my mistake. I was blue head to toe. I looked like Violet Beauregard. Is that her name? The lady who turns into the giant plum-colored thing in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And instantly I was like, oh my God, I've made a mistake. But kept it to myself. And years later, this guy who I went to secondary school with went, and I've always admired just how comfortable you are with yourself and how confident you seem to be. And I just remember that day you just confidently wore like this horrendously all blue tracksuit into school. And I had to say to him, I was like, I was so embarrassed. I was like, I went home and said, I'm never wearing this again. Why did my parents let me go to school? Like, someone should have stopped me. And all to say that I was a relatively shy kid, despite like external appearances. And so using D&D as a way to be like, oh, this is a nice way to practice something or kind of get comfortable with this idea or talk to someone was maybe my first memory. But I don't know, Paul in chat might remember. I think there was just like, I played a hoity-toity high elf princeling wizard character who, to be honest, I love playing those characters. I very rarely get to do that. There might be a little bit of that in campaign 2 of Romancing the Dungeon. Potentially, I might lean that direction. But it was very subtle and maybe like less than 2 minutes, just to kind of like, oh, here's an interesting thing. Well, what do they say about this? Well, maybe I can roll persuasion. And you're playing like 3.5. So you're like, there's not that skill monkey level. It's like, yeah, failed. Okay, fine. I'll go home.
That's enough fun today.
Yeah. What about yourself?
Yeah, it was actually quite early on in my role-playing time, or my role-playing experience. I was it was actually in a one-shot, believe it or not. It wasn't even in a campaign. None of the characters I played in campaigns were ever into it. Like I never designed characters that were kind of open to that idea. And I very much one of my characters was against it, like was very much like she had no need or want for a companion, male, female, or otherwise. It was just sort of a does not want. But I was playing in a Vampire the Requiem. Might even have been Masquerade. Not sure really on the timing of it, but it was a vampire game, and from White Wolf. And I was playing, and I always will play a Deva vampire. I just love them. They're the little emotional shitbags. They're the little flirty little fuckers. And I
put that on my gravestone.
Yeah, flirty little fucker. Yeah. And I And it wasn't even like I'm going out of my way to annoy the DM with this, or
Mhm.
I explicitly built the character to only seduce, and built him in a very specific way that he was pansexual, um, and had preferred to not use his vampire powers because he took it as a personal
Mhm.
slight. Would
Yes.
use them if he had to, but very much I wanted to play sort of into that kind of, if Gambit from X-Men was a vampire uh, in like the 19th century.
That
Um,
is an incredible. I want that Gambit story too.
it was a lot, like it was I was any social situation I ruled in.
Mhm.
Outside of that, I'll just be over there while you kick the shit out of stuff. Okay, I'll just stand over here. Okay,
Yeah.
this is fun. And I said it to the DM, and he was a friend of mine at the time. I was like, "Are you okay with this?" And he was like, "Look, I've been playing these games for a long time. Um, I'll tell you if it goes too far." Now, I wasn't playing the game with that in mind.
Mhm.
But like I think he really started resonating with it as well, because he started putting things in front of me to make me uh push the boundaries of this. Like I was always looking to try and find the one thing about someone that made them special. Um
Mhm.
and using that then to manipulate them and highlighting it for them. And so he started putting in, there's I think they're Nosferatu or Nosferatu adjacent um uh type of,
Yes.
they're kind of the more, or maybe gangrel. I don't know. There's a breed or there's a caste of vampires in that system who are a bit more monstrous in their appearance. So lo and behold, we end up kind of encountering a group of them, and it's the, well, off you go, make this work. And I was like, no, I want everyone to be pretty and beautiful. But it's fine. It was a lot of fun, um, and I didn't do it again until Romancing the Dungeon.
Oh, that's it. Like, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, not every game, like every game we tend to play in, because it's almost how we play in a way, tends to be that way. But it makes sense that the it's like you said at the beginning, it's all session zero stuff. It's all tone stuff. I'm not like going into a table looking for an opportunity to be like, what can I romance around here? But when given the opportunity, I quite enjoy role playing it, and it's something I really enjoy about Romancing the Dungeon, that there is a relatively safe. Sorry, relatively. It's 100% safe space.
That's
It's
really fun.
relatively safe. Yeah, it's you get judged a little. It's
There's
like,
knives and fire as well.
yeah, yeah. But even being able to play into the tropes a little bit and play with the kind of genre of romance has been really fun, because it's so rare that you add a drop of that into the genre of high fantasy, low fantasy, vampire stories. I find that a lot of the vampire stories tend to be sort of baked in to ever since Bram Stoker stoked those fires in people's loins. There's always been a little bit of sexy about the vampires. And I don't know who did it for werewolves. I don't get them, but it is what it is. But you brought up something towards the beginning, which I think is quite, it's a sweeping generalization, but I often think people's first foray into this is slightly jokey, slightly kind of safe spacey. They're kind of trying to annoy the DM, and then it's like a deer in headlights when the DM gives it back, and they're like, oh, oh shit, and then it's almost like a game of chicken,
Yeah, it's gay.
and then
It's
you're like,
gay chicken. It's
yeah,
the oh, and it's who's going to back down first. And
yeah,
this is, I guess it's one of those things. It is a session zero conversation. Is this something as a group that we are up for bringing? I mean, not every session, but into the game, that like I'd like to establish that my character has a romantic partner off adventuring somewhere else, that maybe at some point we will connect. And as the DM, are you okay with playing that? Or do you want to just keep it as a, and while I'm out
Mhm.
adventuring, earning gold, they're back at home minding? the farm or whatever it is. We'll figure that out. So it does very much, it has to start there. And I think if it is the I roll to seduce the dragon, great. If your table are enjoying that, wonderful. But I have always been, my favorite thing about role playing games. So I've said this before. It's storytelling. That's what brings me to this hobby in a big way. But what's kept me here is the collaborative aspect of that, and a lot of the media that I consume, that we all consume, but a lot of stuff that I personally seek out, tends to revolve around, there's this big world thing happening. Who are we in it? Who are we in this space? I always love when we're still trying to do this, but what does this say about us? What do our actions, what do our choices say about us? As people, as a group, as a family, whatever it might be. I've always been drawn to those kinds of stories. And I thought when it came to Romancing the Dungeon that it was something in the audio drama, actual play space that I hadn't seen done, where it was a major thread through it. And I just said, I want to sit down, I want to write this, I want to see what can kind of come out of it. And I want to make sure then that everybody coming to the table, as we kind of get into this, then make sure that everybody is comfortable with this is a big part of this. And like the first couple of episodes, you can tell how awkward we are, because so that was, I had role played with Louise, who plays Fia, in college. So I've known Louise a long time. So there was that wasn't awkward. That's just me and Louise naturally. Not the flirting, the awkwardness. That's just naturally awkward around each other. I had role played with Amber in a short form campaign, but never to that extent, and not with romance involved. And then for Amber, myself, and Louise, that was our first time role playing ever with Sam. And so you put all of us in the room. Amber and Sam are playing ex-lovers. Louise is playing somebody who's kind of developing crushes instantly on all three of these people. And then you have, it's funny. Like Diarmid, who played Thane, had this really interesting story and kind of background. And then I think kind of wanted, if it was fantasy romance 50-50, was very much say 80-20, 80 fantasy, 20 romance. And we started, like, you can tell in the first couple of episodes that one, there's a bit of the nerves there, and two, there's this little bit of like, we want to make sure that everybody's having fun and enjoying themselves. And then you can tell that we, like, some things that we thought would be a fun, like the tramp stamp stuff, tattoos, very rarely gets brought up. There's a little bit of like tattoo and stuff that we mentioned every now and again throughout season 2, and it pops up again in season 3 a little bit, but it's not done as a joke anymore. Like, it was very much sort of we wanted to make sure that people knew we weren't taking this too seriously, and they went, fuck it, actually we are being serious by this, and we do really like this. So I really think as a dimension to a story where it fits, it's a fun, it's another fun thread, I think, that can be woven into the party and create some really interesting dynamics.
You bring a really good segue up, which is there's a difference, I think, between player and DM and an interplayer. And I find sometimes people are more than happy to cross the player DM line, but not the player line. Before we start chatting about that, we have a question in from chat from DM Paul's Nexus. Do you think that at the show level, there's a difference in expectations compared to the table home game? I know my answer is, well, for Romancing the Dungeon, there's an expectation that there should be some romance of the dungeon. So I know in that point of view, I would lean more into there's definitely jokes or to borrow an improv phrase, like game of the scene things that I'll bring in that I wouldn't normally bring in at the table. And one that's okay to talk about because it's already out is that in campaign or in season 3, as the kind of party go in search of Fia, there's a fun game of the scene between AJ and Hephaestus that we don't really ever explore, but it's just this interesting. There was one moment I think we were going through some caves and a noise happened and AJ kind of pushed her against a wall and was like, shh, and put his finger to her lips. And it was quite like an intimate scene in a way that, like, at least for the audience, there's a sense of, oh, hang on, maybe these two could be the romance in the dungeon. Maybe that could be it. And, myself and Amber obviously discussed it beforehand, during, after. It's important to check in on these things. Very lightly kind of went, I think let's just keep it at that top level. Kind of funny to bring up that they're so incompatible, but actually that could be one of those things like a Bert and Ernie, where you're like, these actually could potentially work as a couple. And so that's the type of thing I probably wouldn't do in a home game because there'd be no added. Yeah.
I mean, again, I guess to steal your answer, it's a big part of, we knew going into this that, again, like I said, Sam and Amber's characters they had dated, they'd broken up, it was a bad breakup. And there was, at the very start, there was this kind of, oh, what if during the adventure, what if during the story and the campaign, they figure out actually this could work and we've grown and we've done, we found something again. That was a particular angle that we thought we could play into halfway through season 1. It's very obvious that that's not going to happen. Fucking ever. Ever. Just fucking ever. But I think it became one of those things where I play Hephaestus' ex-girlfriend, Dahlia Wolfram. Getting to play her has always been quite... I really enjoyed playing her. Because again, she's so dangerous and she's so chaotic when it comes to how much she loves Hephaestus, that it's been really fun to dip into those kinds of emotions as a DM. And I've also gotten to play the little weirdos. Like, I've actually, all of you have had a little weirdo fall in love with you. I, to this day, I still have a little chuckle to myself about, again, because I could just be doing anything. I could be putting dishes into the dishwasher, and I will just randomly think of Dizzy in the gift shop in the Temple of Nan in Galeshire City, just professing her undying love to AJ, but workshopping it as a role play scenario with the man she loves. The stuff you tell the girl that he likes that he likes her, and it gives me, like, it doesn't have to be these big massive, Danielle Steele burly chests and me maidens. Like, it can be a really fun like a really fun part of the story to pull into it. But for all of that, it can also be incredibly messy. Like, I think we all know, sometimes in the heat of a game, like in the middle of a high tense session or something like that, like where a mistake gets made or there's a bad roll, or it just doesn't go the party's way, or a player is playing into a character and they're like, don't do that, please don't do that, that's not what we and full well that's what the character would do. And we have this sort of, the session's over and the come down afterwards, and we're all kind of talking about, we're all reflecting it, and sometimes things get brought up not in the best of ways. And I'm talking in general terms here. I'm not talking specifically about romancing the dungeon. That sort of, if at the end of a session it didn't go the table's way, the party's way, whatever it is, how that can impact a group and a table. And then you bring romance into that, you bring relationships into that, And it is one of those things that, and Messi, I think Messi undersells it. I be honest, it can be quite harmful. It can be quite dangerous to a person's mental health, to their emotional well-being, and there's been a couple of times in Romancing the Dungeon where, in the middle of quite an emotional scene, um, we've had to stop and just go, "Hey," um, not to pull the rug out from under this, not to,
Mm-hmm.
spanner in the works here, not to just cut the scene off, but is this okay? Or are you two okay? Is everybody around the table comfortable with where this is going? And like I mentioned, in season one, it became very clear that Hephaestus and Nate would never be a thing. That was probably one of the most intense sessions we had done at that point. And Jesus, they had just survived an encounter with a night hag. And what I thought would be a little jaunty little trip back into Tezzerab. The guys wanted to unload baggage. They wanted to the snipping and the sniding from a character's point of view had kind of really built up. And they both felt that this was a good space now to, I guess, address that or flag it. So we started into it, and Sam and Amber had done sort of their work beforehand. They had talked to each other, they'd communicated, they'd even set up specific phrases in terms of safety, like that. This is me telling you, if this comes out, that is the last word. This is me saying, cut this. This is where this stops now. And I think that has been very, very effective as a tool for our role playing, where we know in coming into a session, this is going to be heavy. This is going to be on us. There's going to be a lot of emotional tax. So can we put together everyone's sort of safe word?
Yeah. I think it's an important thing to have, like incredibly important. But it's true of everything. But you're right to bring it up when it comes to romance and love, because we can all dig deep and play a hero. We can all throw ourselves in front of that bullet to save our, partner in crime or whatever. We can all do those things and have those moments where a character might be on the verge of death, or maybe kind of being sunsetted and a new character comes in. When you have romance, when you have love, when you have these sort of very pure human animalistic emotions, I think you need to be doubly aware of bleed between, character, player, all those things, because you'll be saying things. And this goes back to, we've talked about this on the show before, that our brains aren't evolved enough to tell the difference between when you slay a dragon and when you pretend to slay a dragon. Your memory still sits and you go, oh, I slayed a dragon today. So equally, when it comes to, say, AJ professing love to Thea, it's like I have to sort of feel those feelings. Like I have to let AJ come to the fore of my personality and come to the fore of my consciousness. And AJ is head over heels, cannot be dissuaded from being absolutely besotted with this person. And so there's a level of, when I go on, we were talking about this last episode, the episode before, what we do to get into character or what we do to do those kind of things. There's a level of watching a lot of rom-coms, seeing beautiful monologues, and kind of really going, this person loves this, this other character so much. Now, what's really helpful is I have a wife who I adore. So I can draw in real life. I can just be like, right, I'll just mentally swap them. And I'll be like, say what you would say. Imagine my wife at the table and pull that in and use from my real life the things that if I was in a fantasy world, I could say. And where the importance of setting those safety rules is that I think it's finding those places to draw those structures and those lines because it's one thing saying it. It's another thing seeing someone like a friend of yours, a DM, anyone you've played with before on the opposite end and hearing it and being like, oh, it's really nice to hear it. And sure, it is, AJ's voice, it's Fia's voice, it's Vesta, it's Nate's, it's Ivan's. But that's the same, roughly, unless putting on accents, that's the same voice my friend Sam uses. That's the same voice my friend Amber uses, So always worth checking in, always worth planning out. Actually, a really good example of this is for D8 Dungeon Drive last year. Was it D8 Dungeon Drive or was it Christmas? One of the fundraisers, I played in a game with Tendai and a game with a great streamer from Australia, Britt, who we don't know each other. We were meeting for the first time on stream, but we knew we'd set up our character backstories that they were exes. So we sent back voice notes, we kind of checked in with each other, we sent messages back and forth just to figure out those lines. And equally to have that same conversation that Sam and Amber have, which is, these are those safe words, these are where I'm comfortable going, this is where I'm not comfortable going, etc., etc. And so always worth doing, because it might feel like, if it's like the way you're like, oh, I just figured it out at the table, that's kind of fine, but you're opening yourself up for unexpectedness. And, it's still improvised. It's still kind of made up on the spot. You're not writing yourself a script by any means, but you're just giving yourself the guardrails of saying, okay, this is how I'm going to go from A to B, avoid getting to C, and make sure that we end at D. And I did not mean that to be an innuendo, but there we go.
There it is. Clip it. Get him.
Make sure you get to the D, guys. That's the important bit.
Romancing the D.
Romancing the D, or that D. What would OR stand for? No, never mind.
Riding the D.
Riding the D. Riding is a thing. So, is there? What was I going to say? On the back of that, and on the back of safety tools and bleed, and on the back of, in chat here, romance is the most dangerous thing in TTRPG, but can also have great character story. Is there any time? I suppose to finish that thought is, it's okay for people to have different roles at the table. That's what I was trying to get to. That if one character's into it, but other characters aren't. Look at the cast of Critical Role. Travis Willingham on record is like, I never wanted to play romance at the table. I never wanted to do, that's just not what I'm into. And then you can see that in campaign 1. And then you see them playing around with it a little bit in campaign 2. And I would say it's no coincidence that the character, hopefully this isn't a spoiler for campaign 2 of Critical Role, but the character that they sort of have a burgeoning relationship with is their real life wife. Sure, it's an easier thing to kind of step in that way. And so that's also something. And also it's not just a relationship between two people, it's a relationship between people with an audience who are your table. So check in with your audience too, because anyone can hit that X card. Anyone can be like, let's stop this. Because the last thing you want is, two people deeply going through something and then 3 to 4 people around them awkwardly being like, well, we're here for this.
It's been one of those things, as as that table experiencing this, it is one of those things where sometimes, and again, I won't go into it, but because it hasn't come out yet, but there's an episode towards the last half of campaign of season 3. I was a little bit I had to actually stop it. The conversation, the role playing was phenomenal, but I like, as a person at that table where this was happening, I started to get upset. I started to get a bit like, so I actually put my hand up and went, can I just take a moment to just check if everybody's doing okay, because I'm not doing okay. And we took a breather. We did take a couple of minutes to just kind of stop what we were doing and just make sure everybody was on the same page with us. And once we had that done, and once everybody was comfortable, we went back into it. And it doesn't break the game. It doesn't break the flow of the story. People were able to get straight back into it. And I'm very much aware, because you talked about bleed, Ben.
Mm.
There's been a couple of instances in Romancing the Dungeon where I've talked about this before. I don't know if we've talked about it in Ben and Declan, but I haven't made a secret of it. Like when we first started doing it, and I was kind of guesting on other shows and stuff like that, I would kind of mention it. But I, I've talked about the influences for Romancing the Dungeon and wanting to explore relationships and stuff. But to be honest with you, the a month before I sat down with this, and then 2 months before we actually started recording it, I ended a 10-year relationship.
Mm.
I called off a wedding 8 months before the wedding, um, and that all sounds so dramatic, and it sounds almost Austenian, but it was one of the things that I started playing into. Then I was like, this will be fun. I want to do this. I want to look at this. And then a couple of times, some of the villains, some of the bad people in the game were drawn from some of my experiences. And a couple of times, and I mean this a couple of times over the last 5 or 6 years, um, that bleed, particularly where I was playing somebody not so nice, somebody
Mm.
um, somebody who's not a good person, um, really, really upset me, and not because of anything that happened. I think it was because for me the bleed was sort of, why is it so easy for me to be this cruel?
Mm.
Why is it so easy for me to say these awful things to people I love? And that weird sort of, I know full well I'm not this character, but I was, hurting people, um, hurting characters. And then it was well, okay, am I hurting characters or am I hurting friends? Am I hurting
Mm.
for like who you're playing, or is this getting to you? And I remember talking with the table, and like just being very sort of upfront with, I I don't know. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this. Like, is everybody okay with it? And um, it was really, really important, I think, that we've talked about session zeros, we've talked about running session zeros. Um, but I think what saved, or well, what helped me, and what kind of kept us going, and what saved the show from me kind of going, nah, I'm not doing this, um, was very much that we do this ongoing. That
Mhm.
it's voice notes into the group chat, or it's voice notes between me and another player, or between players, and
Mhm.
sort of setting out our stock as, hey, look, this is what's coming up today. This is what, based on the last session where we ended, this is the direction I'm thinking. Not with and it has to end here and you have to do the following, but
Mhm.
this is my beat here. How we get to that, off you go. And when the beat comes in, I'll let you know. But this is what I am thinking of doing today. And I think, um, that aspect, with the romance thrown in, has given us some amazing sessions and some really
Mhm.
serious moments that, you know I don't know, would it work outside of the show? And it kind of goes back to, DM Paul's next question about, the table and the show, the kind of the expectation of it. It's one of those things that if you are going to incorporate romance as a story, has a character aspect, that it's not just a session zero conversation, it's a continual conversation. Because people's lives change, people's feelings change,
You know what? That's great advice for life as well. It's not just the first date, second, third date. You constantly communicate, constantly check in with your partner, the people you love, constantly have those little moments of, are we good? How you feeling? Much like a real life relationship, love takes nurturing, and it's not something you can take for granted or let kind of leave to the wayside. You have to actively participate in it. So if you're playing at the table, actively participate in those conversations and allow for that change. And one thing we haven't really gotten into, and potentially we don't have time, it's an interesting little button for another episode, is breakups. What do you do when two players go, yeah, let's make a relationship here? Time passes, campaign passes, and you kind of go, oh, I think my character wants to break up with your character. That's something that would be really tough. And I would imagine, I know we don't have much time, but my advice to anyone there would be don't just involve the two of you. Have the whole table in that discussion, because if it's not mutual, it could feel like you're being broken up with for real in a way. It's like, what did my character do? It's like that scene from Banshees of Inisherin. It's like, just don't like you no more. It's like, you liked me yesterday. It's like, yeah, well, I don't like you now. What are you going to do?
Make a movie out of it.
Yeah, make a movie out of it and see if you can do something with it. What you were saying there about that feeling of, why are these emotions so surface level ready for me? Why can I just pull this up? And how is that so on hand? It's a really good thing to check in as a DM in general. You sort of have to be the bad guy as much as you're the good guys. And in terms of bleeds, it can feel, I know this from my own experience DMing, where it's like, it feels like your players, especially when it's like, fuck you got a natural one. You're like, whoa. Like, why do you, I'm not the enemy here. The character we're in the scene is, but lay off me a little bit. And I think that's an important thing when it comes to love and connection at the table, that remember, more importantly than all of this, especially if you're a group of friends, it's not a convention, is the love you have for each other. And that as players, you're here to have fun and support each other and to tell the best story you possibly can. And don't get me wrong, I love razzing on the DM as much as I like being razzed on as a DM. But it's also fine if you're the DM to be like, whoa, that one feels personal. That feels like you're shouting at me, Ben, not me, Dragnar the Relentless. So, aim at a dragon.
Yeah, it is. It's the again, I think anything that requires this, and I think this is one of the things that makes tabletop role-playing games, I'm not saying you can't have an emotional experience of reading a book, or Jesus, I have, or listening to music, I have, playing a video game, I have, but this is very much, full immersion, short of getting on a roller coaster and getting accidentally sucked into the world of Faerun. This is you set around a table, suspending who you are, 96% of the time, to sit with other people who enjoy this hobby. Maybe they were friends before, maybe they're friends now, but with a bunch of people that you like spending 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of a Saturday with, and working together to tell a story. And the energy that requires is immense. And you're sitting down, you're rolling some dice, but you're constantly thinking, you're constantly on. And I've been very, very fortunate in most instances that tables I'm set at, people aren't there. Sorry, it's pandas aren't showing their butts. But it's the we don't have that sort of distraction device, that thing that you are very much in the moment. And when you throw in the, well, this isn't mechanics, and I'm performing here. I'm playing a role. I'm playing a person, and that person has real feelings that I am drawing on from myself. And again, DM Paul says it that, like, you know, drawing in, and I know they mentioned pain, but drawing in any emotion off, outside of the table and bringing it into the table.
Mhm.
You're obviously doing that because it's something that you are using to fuel what's happening for you. And if that's too much, or it takes too much, or it doesn't get the payoff that you were hoping for, well, what do you do with all that expended energy? What do you do with all that emotional weight now that you've brought with you? And it's such a I have absolutely loved getting to work with it. I won't say play with it, because um yeah, we have fun and we joke, and there's been um some really funny um little stories and moments in the first season, or the first campaign. But it's one of those things where I don't think we've ever set out to be disrespectful um
Mhm.
about it. Like Ben said, we fade to black. uh you don't hear dick jokes or boob jokes or whatever it is in the I mean, they might
Goddamn shame. The amount of material left on the cutting room floor from yours truly
get
never gets it. It's just cut straight away. But yeah, you're right. It's to be respectful about it. And it's funny, I think we could probably chat about this. I think, aside from like some of the jokes I tell at the table, I think there is respect in being a bit jokey, having a bit of brevity. There's a show I absolutely love called Brute Tales of Magic, and they seem to, you know, it's a sexy, not sexy, but they talk about sexual things in a way that's very funny, but you don't get the feeling anyone at the table is making fun of this. They're just
Mm.
saying that's actually, like an episode I just listened to, a guy like had to like leave the scene to like jizz their pants and come back. And it was like, and that's the picture they paint. But all that we really hear as an audience member is that that they're very attracted to this person, and then the scene continues on. And then just before the scene ends, you hear them kind of come in and go, so, my character comes around from the back room and just goes, oh, that feels better. And that's the level, but the audience know exactly what's happening. So they're like, all right, yeah, great. And so I don't mind it in shows. I don't mind that. That I think there's a certain level of. I think it's because I try to be anti-purity in that sense. I think there's a Puritan thing that can happen sometimes where it's just like, well, it's there, but let's not talk about it because it's gross and it's private. And for me, that for whatever reason in my own personal psyche kind of brings up like shame, and I'm like, well, let's not be shamed about it. Like, it's not shameful. It's a normal thing. Like, it's a regular, normal human thing. And I think you're right that we're, and led by you as DM at the table, very respectful about that. And I know why. It won't stop me in the moment making a stupid joke, but I know why we don't lean into the gag of it all. That it's not a bit, because it's core to the show, and we keep it at that sort of PG-13, maybe. Maybe not back in the 80s, but at today's PG-13, it's at that level. And on the show, as much as I joke, the show I think is all the better for it.
Yeah, again, it's not to like downplay those other aspects. Like, I mean, we edit the living daylights out of an episode, and it's not because we say lots of rude things or we say offensive things and we're like, oh, cut that. It's we've always kind of worked with romancing as a audio drama first vibe, and the actual play thing is secondary to that. So and I think actually by season 3 we've kind of really gotten good at kind of cutting out a lot of the rules and the discussion. We just don't use it. Like, it's not bringing anything, unless it's something where you're like, this is something we have to keep because it needs to be explained for why
Yeah.
Declan decided that, or why the table have kind of agreed to this. Most part, we're not using it. So when it comes to like how to bring this up, when it comes to like what do you do again, it's have that conversation above the table, and not at the table, like
Hmm.
again at the, and it doesn't have to be, maybe this thing is something later on in the game that you're like, actually there's a thing here, I've like myself and this other player have been talking about it, we'd like to I've heard your raw audio
Release the Clifford cut.
the pearl clutching. But it's it's as serious and stuff, and as as sort of honest as we are, or I'm trying to be about like our process to it, you still have to have fun. Like
Mhm.
that's what this is. It's a fun way to spend your day. And if that's getting to flirt with your friend who's playing the barmaid, or your another player who's playing the dragonborn paladin, who doesn't know how to flirt back, great. Just make sure
Yeah.
everybody's on board.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, agreed. It's such a. I mean, that goes for anything, whether it's flirting, whether it's love, whether it's relationships. It brings to mind about a year ago, maybe a little bit long, we talked about reactive versus proactive GMing. And that one of the core kind of tenets of that is that as players, taking a more active role in what your character wants and setting short, medium, and long term goals. And, things happen at the table. It's an entirely improvised thing. Something might come up, and you brought this up there, have this discussion not at the table, but afterwards or beforehand. You don't have to plan for it. But if something unexpected happens, if there's your version of something there from Beauty and the Beast that happens to you, that you start seeing a new character or a new NPC in a new light, have that discussion at the next table, or you can DM your DM, or you can make it part of your short-term goals. You could be, my character wants to explore this a little bit, and we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it doesn't go, and setting those boundaries. It's like looking for love versus finding it and exploring it are both valid reasons to, like, valid log lines for a character. And that could be a whole reason to be. Why are you an adventurer? It's like, well, I'm just out here, similarly, like, the way human beings are, the way we are. We're just like, oh, well, I joined this club and I'm trying to meet people, and maybe I'll meet someone, maybe I won't. Like, but I'll keep an open mind about it. And I think that's a really good attitude to have with romance or interpersonal relationships at the table. Keep an open mind about it and see where it goes. If you're interested, but if you also 100% know, I don't like that at the table, I don't want to do it, then that's totally clear. You can settle as a line and bail. In fact, it's in all those safety tool checklists, like romance and scales of it, grades of it. Absolutely no, let's have a discussion about it, on screen to a certain extent, entirely off screen, or like insinuated but never actually seen. And there is that level of scale with all of it. The only thing I was thinking of, there's one extra like topic that as we kind of round out this, but before I ask you that question, is there anything you're thinking of in that space?
No, I like, again, nothing to the point that I think nothing that's going to add to what you've said, Ben. I think it's very much a, if this is something like if someone says I don't want this, that's it. That's the conversation. That's there.
Yeah.
There can't be a further. And again, maybe 6 months down the line,
Mhm.
they open the door and they say, well, actually, I think the way the characters have gone, or I think the way the story's gone, yeah, let's talk about it. But like, there's no point putting yourself through this if it's not something that is going to work. And like that, it's the again we were talking about homebrew, rules and mechanics at your table and stuff like that, and setting out your stock at the very very start. And I've had 2 little mini session zeros with the team for the gang for campaign 2, but we still haven't had our group let's all sit around and let's talk about things session yet. And I think that's where we're probably going to talk about the romance side of things again. It's the what do we want to do? What do we don't like? What don't we want? Because we've managed to kind of establish some relationships between characters. Again, nothing that's like, oh well, we were married, or nothing to that degree. But we've established that people do kind of maybe know of each other, especially with what we're doing for campaign 2. But in the future, like that thing of, well, are we opening this up to, like that again? It's the AJ was created by me as a love interest for Fia. Me not wanting to play that, and then that potential Hephaestus AJ thing is again, it's we have to have these conversations with, are we going to let this be a thing that we work towards, or are we saying hard no this time around with the table developing relationships, or do we want to leave it open to see what can kind of come out of it?
I can tell you what I'm going to do as a pure completionist next campaign is just try romance all of them, as long as none of the dialogue options like cut anyone else off. I'll pick towards the end, but I'll keep them all nicely romanced, and then we'll see which scene I get.
That's actually only in a patch that'll be released after the fact, which I'll be doing in the editing.
Yes. We'll give the audience options. We'll let them choose. For the Ben's character romances Amber's character, listen to episode 31B.
You said you had a question.
Yeah, or kind of a topic, and I don't know if it's going to open up a more discussion beyond, but there's something I thought about. Obviously, we're talking about romance, but we're also talking about love as a whole, and something we haven't really touched upon is like parent-child or siblings or family, and that being a kind of love at the table or interpersonal at the table. And the reason it comes to mind is in a couple of weeks' time, actually maybe 2-3 months' time, an episode of Romancing will come out in which we sat down just the 2 of us to record. And I think that's a really good. I actually haven't listened to the episode yet, but I will. Yeah, I'll give it a listen, because there is that moment to give a peek behind the curtain. Like, this relationship between AJ and this character is really interesting from a love and lack of love point of view, and to give you sort of comfort and support of like that sense of like, why is this main thing there? There's a split second, you might even hear it in the edit, where it's like, I think I say something and I try to snipe Declan. I'm like, I'm going to see if I can get Declan with this one, not the character. And you kind of go, and then have to like settle back into the character. I remember because I was there, I could see it, but you're like, wait, no, I have to be mean. And I was like, almost got him, almost got the character to like me in any shape or form, or at least feel something for me.
I think I know. Okay, I need you to DM me afterwards.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I caught it.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay.
Because I again, it was I need to double check.
Yeah, it might be in there. It might not. But that whole session is me just trying to like trying every dialogue option to get this character to feel something, and hopefully it translates, because I think it is a good app.
No, it is. It's I have fallen in love with I don't know, duo sessions. Is that dual session? How do we call? I don't know if there's a title for them. But I can blame. It's funny. Every season and it's something I'm going to continue into campaign 2. Every season has a Tales of. So we had the Tales of Tezrab, we've had the Tales of Galeshire, and we have the Tales of something in season 3. And none of those are recorded separately. Like, you all have to sit around the table listening to each other's adventures. And sometimes I will bop from AJ and Fia to Nate, and then Nate to Hephaestus, and it's really fun because it's that sort of jumping around. And that's I stole that from Avatar and the Tales of Ba Sing Se. It's one of my favorite episodes. I think it's for a lot of people. It's a lot of people's favorite episodes. But I just loved the kind of a day in the life of idea. So we've always styled those episodes as we don't really hear from any of the other characters. We just see. We might hear the other players, but we don't hear the other characters. And then, particularly with campaign, I keep saying campaign, but in season 3, because it's been very much a split party, and I've been playing season 3 with Louise as Fia solo. It has literally just been me and Louise for all of the Fia episodes. And we had a conversation that it would be, how do we get the gang from nya to nya without having to rush? How do we get to the D?
From A to D.
And I didn't want to role play out the whole journey across the mountains. As like it's Jesus, it's getting a bit Tolkien. And so what do we do? And we're like, well, actually, why don't we do it as sort of from the perspective of AJ, and AJ doing X, and in the background we can hear the other two shitehawks giving out and everything else. And that episode, again, it'll be out in a couple of months. I loved it took me a while to edit, mostly because I was not in an editing mood. But when I settled into it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've really fallen in love with getting to tell an intimate story, like an intimate moment, with just a player and their character in my world, in this space, for them and with them. And yeah, when I say it's on the cutting floor, like none of the interaction, I don't think, but the weird sort of moment, I don't think is in it, because it's towards the end, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. It was it was close to one of the last things we recorded, I think, before the guys were here. So Sam and Amber were in the kitchen as we finished up.
It's just because I think it's the I think I know what it is, because it's just, I think Sam came to the window right at the height of it. And there's a section there, so I think it's around that point. And again, we cut lots of that stuff out.
Yeah, well, I'll let viewers of the show know when I listen to it. I'll probably listen to it in the flight. I'm editing here as well, so it's one of those things where if I'm in editing mode, I don't want to listen to anything else, because I'm like, if I've ear time, then the ear time goes to this thing. But I'll listen to it on the flight home, or next week when I'm hopefully done this initial edit. And I don't think it's like, whether it's in there or not, it's not a major. It's not like it's the hypothesis of who AJ is. You're like, that explains everything. It's just this, like, that interaction or that kind of conversation was a game of me, Ben, just being like, how do I reach this character through any means necessary? But potentially, we never really do like snippets, I suppose, because they're so hard to listen to. Like, you couldn't just release contextless clips for people. But it'd be an interesting little thing to have. That's me done with love. I think I'm done with love. How do you feel?
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
That's me stirred again. Yeah, no, I think because it's one of those things. I have a couple of other bits and pieces here that I'm like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
like
Let's do it.
no, but no. It's we're also. You say next time, or we have time? Because no, we don't. We've been at this for
Oh
nearly
yeah.
an hour and a half.
Oh, fair.
Yeah. So our usual thing of hey, we're keeping it to a tidy hour is a lie.
Yeah.
I definitely, because we said romance was what we were talking about, but I'd love to go back to talking about relationships, because it's not just it's that thing of like, well, I'm the rogue, and I've had a really tragic upbringing. Both my parents were killed when I was raised as an orphan, and that's often thrown out there. It's like, well, can we talk about those relationships and the lack thereof? And like, I am a big, like I said at the start, exploring as much as we're here to do this big thing. Who are you, and why are you doing the big thing? Is a part of it. So I'd love to come back to talking about relationships, love in general, not necessarily, and I just I like, 'cause I think there's so much to get into it. I will tell me. Yeah, I think we're good there.
Yeah,
I think we're good.
part two. Yeah, there's so much more to talk about.
Yeah.
As DM Pulse Nexus says, sometimes you should just do a no time limit. I think genuinely, and I'm not trying to be over exaggerating or superfluous here, if there was a no time limit Ben and Declan On A Roll, aside from sleep, we would chat. So we would find, all we'd do is write a spinning wheel of 100 topics and just, and then what we could do.
I think we should do that.
Yeah, we'll do 100 topics. We could even crowdsource those topics, put them into a generator and hit it, and just do a no time limit. Now, yeah, maybe we'll just say no time. Well, we could do a full charity stream telethon. I think people would get sick. We'd have to have other people to jump in and out.
People would get sick of us.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But we should do an episode where it's just to spin the wheel of topics. And
what if the incentives were like spin the wheel again to see if we can stay? And how do we naturally segue into the next thing?
Yeah, true. Either it's a table or a wheel. We could use a D100. Very easy to do, of just every topic under the sun. That's a great idea. Thanks, DM Pulse Nexus.
Yeah, stolen.
We'll do that. That's ours now.
We've at the VentureCon this
weekend,
because Ben is in a different country. Ben shan't be joining us, but I will be there, and Amber will be there. Dread there's a good bunch of the D8 Dungeon crew going to be there. I think Paul
and Keelan are going to be there from Homebrew. I think Paul also has stickers, has Homebrew stickers. So if you're there, find Paul and get a lovely sticker to stick on things. So yeah, and I think the plan is to make like fun show-based stickers. I saw some of the work in progress. It looks incredible. So any kind of phrases we come up with during the next Homebrew, we're going to try stickerify and design, and then just have for people. We might merch them.
Can we make a Horses for Courses sticker?
Oh yeah, we probably could. I was thinking about this the other day when in the Discord Zool pointed in someone else using Horses for Courses. And I was like, how do you sticker that in a way that's like, is it just the two of us horsified? Is it...
It's two horses in those two jackets with mugs that say Horses for Courses.
Horses for Courses. And one horse just looking confused, being like, huh?
Well, I have never heard that phrase.
But yes, DM Pulse Nexus will have Homebrew stickers, so go track them down. Get yourself a sticker, sign up for a game, say hello to the wonderful AdventureCon crew for me. I'm very sad not to be there. I had to pull out of some panels, etc., because I'm in a different country. I don't think having me there as some sort of surrogate Krang like iPad going around the convention would be fun for anyone. Well, be fun for me, but it would be terrible for everyone else. But yeah, have a great time. There's so many wonderful panels, so many wonderful workshops, so many wonderful merchants and events, and wonderful people. So I'm gutted not to be there, but I'll be there. I'll be there at the next one. Well, I said that now. Who knows? Well, I hope to be there at the next one.
I think that's us.
That's us. That's us. Let me riff a little while you find someone to raid.
Yeah.
If listening to this episode made you think, oh, I wouldn't mind listening to the show that Ben and Declan were talking about, then you can find Romancing the Dungeon across all your podcast platforms of choice. Give it a listen. Enjoy it. It's coming to the end of campaign 1. I would say if you start today, you will catch up. So you'd be able to live listen to the last couple of episodes of campaign 1. If you didn't like that, just remember we said that actually romance isn't in your face all the time, so you'll enjoy it anyway. And once you binge your way through that, or if you want to start with something a little bit more tipsy in tabletop, you can give campaign 1 of Homebrew a listen. There is some romance in that as well. We managed to weave it in a little bit lighter touch, but as DM Post Nexus mentions in chat, there is a romance between one of the NPCs I play and their character Randir, as well as I think Iggy has a slight burgeoning romance, and so there's little bits of love across all the tables. We will be back in 2 weeks' time. We don't really have a topic, but we'll probably talk yeah, we can do the Wheel of Doom. We might have had our player session rules conversations. We could talk about that. We could easily talk about getting drunk at the table as we get closer and closer to Paddy's Day and what that's like. Dip into the other sort of half of the show. Could be a good topic. That's probably 2 shows from now. I would say there is,
but no,
maybe not.
So
what's the date?
Oh, you can either do it. Will it be the 5th of March?
Yeah,
or the 19th of March.
Let's do the 19th. It'll be right by Paddy's Day.
Well, hungover.
Exactly.
We really won't.
So then, yeah, we'll find something else.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay. We're going to jump into the Emerald Collective. So I'm going to take us to the credits. We're back in 2 weeks. There's an episode of Romancing the Dungeon next week. I keep saying this, but there is some new shows coming to D8 Dungeon very, very soon, and I'm not DMing them. But that's a big lie, because I do have a new show that I will be casting for very, very soon. It's a stupid project that I have in my stupid little brain that I want to have a go at. So details for that will be available very, very soon. And you'll see it on the Discord, the D8 Dungeon Discord first. But until then, we're out. You can check us out at D8 Dungeon on all social media, Homebrew Quest as well. Bye, we're going to jump into the Emerald Collective. Don't go anywhere.